Dementia Researcher with a blog and a rating.
Sustainable travel to international conferences. As the world grapples with the pressing challenges of climate change, our individual and collective responsibility to reduce carbon emissions has never been more apparent. This responsibility extends to all aspects of our lives, including our travel choices. In this blog, I will not make you feel guilty, preach, or scold you for travelling to international conferences, because attending in-person conferences is important. What I will do is talk about carbon offsetting, something I think everyone should consider when travelling to a conference, foreign or domestic, and no matter how you get there. I'm sure you'll have heard of carbon offsetting. This is now done by governments on a grand scale, but to give you the basics, it involves giving money to projects that reduce or remove greenhouse gas emissions to compensate for the carbon footprint generated by your journey to and from the conference. By supporting initiatives that actively mitigate carbon emissions, we can counterbalance the environmental impact of our travel. Offsetting isn't perfect, but it does serve as a bridge between unavoidable emissions and the broader goal of achieving carbon neutrality. Travel, particularly air travel, contributes significantly to carbon dioxide emissions, which is the leading cause of climate change. Carbon offsetting allows us to take personal responsibility for our contribution to greenhouse gas emissions and helps minimize the negative environmental impact of our journeys. By investing in verified offsetting projects, such as renewable energy initiatives or reforestation efforts, we can actively participate in global efforts to combat climate change. So even if you start by choosing the lowest carbon form of travel, you can still and should still consider offsetting. Conferences bring together researchers from diverse geographic locations, and this of course requires rail and air travel and results in a substantial carbon emission. This month's Alzheimer's Association International Conference, or AIC in Amsterdam, is a prime example, but it's far from the only one. With thousands of attendees jetting from all corners of the globe to exchange knowledge, share research, collaborate on groundbreaking solutions in the fight against Alzheimer's disease. Let me ask you a few questions. Are you attending the AAIC in person? Did you choose the lowest carbon way of getting there? If you've already booked your travel, did you calculate the carbon footprint of your trip? Did you answer those? Well, in the show notes, you'll find a link to where you can calculate the carbon for your trip. Did you do that now? How much was it? For those planning to attend international conferences like the AIC, I believe it's crucial for everyone to take personal responsibility and offset the carbon footprint generated by such travel. The essence of international conferences lies in fostering collaboration, sharing knowledge, and collectively working towards solutions. By offsetting our travel emissions, we enhance the credibility of these conferences as platforms for positive change. Attendees can actively participate in sustainable practices, including carbon offsetting, and inspire others within the field to adopt environmentally conscious habits. Moreover, incorporating discussions on climate change and sustainability within the conference agenda can drive greater awareness and promote actionable solutions. The collective impact of us all offsetting our travel emissions can be powerful. When thousands of attendees at the AIC and other conferences offset their emissions, it sends a strong message that sustainability is an integral part of combating Alzheimer's disease, particularly when we know that air quality and pollution are actually risk factors. In 2022, when I got back to travelling after the pandemic, I realised that my carbon footprint for travelling to conferences was terrible, but I didn't want to stop attending them. I investigated what I could do about it and realised that offsetting isn't actually as expensive as you might think. As an example, I travelled to Mexico City for a conference in May this year, and it cost me £54 to offset the carbon from that flight. And a recent car journey to Newcastle cost me £5.21. I should say I would have attended by train, but it was impractical due to not living near a train station and the amount of equipment I had to take. Which brings me to an important point. Of course, before you even get to the point of offsetting your carbon, you can start by choosing a mode of travel that produces the least amount of carbon in the first place. However, I understand that the lowest carbon travel isn't always the easiest. I think it's okay not to always choose the lowest carbon option, but it is important that you at least consider all the options and make that an informed and conscious decision rather than simply heading to the travel booking website. Earlier this year, my university, which is University College London, published guidance for staff on low carbon travel. It also changed its travel policy to ban domestic air travel and extended that to include any location that's accessible via the Eurostar train. This includes Paris, Bruges, Antwerp, Lille and Amsterdam. So as a side note, I thought it might be worth knowing that the Eurostar train actually runs from London to Amsterdam via Rotterdam, takes 3 hours 52 minutes to get there, and at an average price of £300. Final thoughts. As we prepare to attend international conferences such as the AIC or any others taking place at amazing locations, we must recognise the importance of offsetting our carbon footprints. By doing so, we embrace our roles as stewards of the environment and champions of sustainability. Offsetting our emissions not only mitigates the negative impact of our travel, but it also helps set an example to others, fosters collaboration and builds momentum for positive change. I'm not asking you to change your travel plans or even take the most difficult option, but at least check all the options, calculate your carbon footprint, and make a financial contribution to offset. Yes, times are hard, but climate change is one of the reasons that they are hard. There are lots of great offsetting projects, and while we wait for improvements to jet fuel and more sustainable options for travel, offsetting will really help to ensure we're doing our bit to help the planet. Let us seize this opportunity to make a difference.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.